all of our meetings, we stand for a pledge of allegiance. So, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right, so we did prepare a little agenda. Maybe we should just go around the room one more quick time, just to tell our names, but also our role here, just so everybody knows everybody. So you want to start, Mike?
Mike Matuszewski, Fire Marshal, Emergency Management Coordinator. Jim, who's not here, he's out ill, so Jim Wallace will be the other person. He's the Code Enforcement Director.
Steve Waters, Place One Apartments.
Glenn Nolfi.
How do you spell your last name, Glenn?
Nolfi.
Thank you.
Plymouth Hill.
My name is Ed Silcox, S as in Sam, I-L-C-O-X as in X-ray. I'm also from the Plymouth Hill condos. I'm the secretary of the condo board.
Karen Bramblett, Plymouth Council at Large. So I represent all of the wards in Plymouth, including where both of Plymouth Hill and Plymouth and Place One are located.
And I'm Lynn Viscio. I'm also a council member, and I specifically represent Ward 3.
Okay, and I'm Karen Weiss, the Township Manager. All right. Okay, I thought, I don't know if Karen or Lynn wants to start, just maybe you, I guess the other gentlemen were probably at the meetings, but Steve, you probably were not. So just a little background on why this committee is being formed from the council standpoint.
Sure. Did you want to start?
Go ahead.
Yeah, so I think we all know what's happened, sort of the reaction to the ordinance, to Ordinance 1672 that took place. And as a result, the amendment to the ordinance that would no longer require retrofitting sprinkler systems into existing high-rise structures. We know that when that ordinance initially was recommended, and when the township adopted it, that the intentions of the fire marshal and code enforcement was to ensure that we were doing everything in our power to make sure our residents stay safe, including taking extra measures in high-rise apartment buildings. But we do understand that there were some hardships associated with that, and as a result, as everybody knows, we have rescinded that part of the ordinance. But we did say that we'd still like to explore together any opportunities to ensure that our high-rise structures, where we have not retrofitted and are not requiring retrofitting of sprinkler systems, are as safe as possible. And so that's something we said we wanted to do together. So we have representatives from council, we have Mike, Jim Wallace will be with us typically, and we wanted representation from both of our high-rise facilities so that you could also be heard and sort of share your thoughts and opinions about what's happened. And we said the committee would not meet for more than a year, but over the course perhaps of 12 months or up to 12 months, we could do some exploration together and make some decisions about anything else that might be feasible, appropriate, and helpful in the way of keeping people safe.
Okay. So I think next thing I thought maybe we'd talk about what's currently in place. Like okay, I don't know if you want to start, Steve, because you were just talking about the you don't have individual smoke detectors. You've got some hardwired system of, I just thought maybe everybody should know what's in place in these buildings currently, so then maybe some other ideas could be brought forward. Maybe there's something else that you could do. Again, there's no code that's going to tell you have to, but just if there's other things that could make it more safe. I mean, that's the whole purpose of this committee, right? To try to make things more safe than they are, if that's even possible. I mean, there might be a couple things, there might not be. I don't know, but we look at what you have so far. And do you want to start? Sure.
Yes, like we were talking earlier before the meeting, we have a fully addressable system in place right now for smoke, and it was approved and inspected by codes and the fire marshal at the time. It's a pretty robust system from what I know. I'm not an expert at it, but it tells us everything, even when there's, when something goes into trouble, or anything. It gets inspected annually by a third party called Telgen. They're a national inspection agency. They actually submit their inspection report directly to either codes or you. If there is, through their inspection, if there's anything that is identified in there, we have to get it done very quickly. Like, we just automatically approve it just because we can't have the system not functioning properly and for a period of time at all. Really haven't had any issues because it's so new. It's newer.
How new is it? When was it put in?
I don't know exactly, but it's
Oh.
probably, if I had to guess, 10, 12 years. And I mean, what was required in there, I mean, they really, at the time, when they went through review, and again with codes and the fire marshal at the time, it was very extensive where they had put, I believe, fire or sensors in the ductwork, different things. Like, I'm sure the plans are on file because it was an extensive undertaking with engineering and design and approval process. But everything was installed, it was signed off on, and it's been a great system so far. We had some hiccups in the beginning and get some kinks out of it, but ever since then, there's not been a ton, not that I know of any issues with the system, unless you know.
You and I can talk later.
Okay.
Does
that
it
for-
run off
There's
of
issues.
For
electricity?
smoke,
It
for
does,
smoke
with battery backup.
protection?
Okay, so it runs off electricity, has battery backup. And then I was asking, but now that we're on the record with the minutes, if an individual renter were to try to disable it, the master panel would get an alarm and
It sends a
someone-
trouble signal to the panel, and it has to be investigated, where it goes into full alert.
And
after
who
a period of
investigates
time.
that for you guys?
Excuse me?
Sorry, who investigates that for you guys?
Well, we have on-site maintenance. If it goes into that, which is just, trouble just means it's a basic alert. It doesn't go into full alarm that it would call the fire department.
Right.
How quickly does that happen? So if there's a trouble message, I mean, that somebody checks into it immediately, 24 hours later?
It's as it happens, we're pretty,
Immediately.
yes.
The panel should show it almost immediately.
Okay. But the follow-up is immediate too, so if
Yes.
someone doesn't go, I'll put
If
in
we
an
don't
order
go
tomorrow.
up, if we don't go up and address it, it would go into full trouble, correct?
No.
Or it won't?
Most troubles do not. No.
It's,
But like I said, we can talk afterward, but there are troubles that are on there for a while.
anything that's.
Well, we'll talk after.
Absolutely. Anything that we've been, presented with, we've taken care of immediately. I don't have anything on the books right now that's an issue that I know of. And if we need to do improvements, we can. It's a VES panel, or VEC, sorry. And Hochiki heads, they're all, what was recommended at the time. So we'll be able to do any upgrades to the system that we need to, if that were to pertain to, we need to do an upgrade to it.
Do you have any sprinklering and trash chutes or any areas at all or none?
Common areas,
Yeah,
any place?
anything
No
like
common
that?
areas, trash chutes. I don't know if you guys have
Please,
trash
Mom.
chutes.
We do.
Plymouth Hill has trash chutes.
Trash
Right,
use
That's
is-
all it's got.
Is it
They're
sprinkled? That's what
sprinkled?
I'm just saying.
Our
Trash
sprinklers
chutes.
with the compactor areas.
Nothing else is. No
Yeah.
common areas, no nothing else.
Okay.
But
Just the
it's
trash chutes.
Something, yeah. I was just, okay.
And that's tied into the alarm system.
Okay.
So if a sprinkler head goes off, it sends a signal to the panel, like anything on those risers that would go off.
And you have like 24-hour maintenance people so that if you get a trouble alarm
We do.
in the middle of the night,
Yep.
that person will take care of it,
Mhm.
make a decision if,
Any emergency call that comes in, there's a man on call, or a person on call, sorry.
Place one's been very, very good about that with their folks. They'll respond from home, whatever distance it is. Daytime's great because they're always there. Evenings, really up to 20 minutes, 30 minutes, I think the tops we've usually waited for them to get there.
and so fire alarms, how about other fire safety stuff like your elevators or your exit doors or your, isn't there such a thing as when there's a
Some
fire, the
safety
doors
stuff.
shut so that the fire doesn't spread? I don't know what you call that.
Their doors have actually been good. There's been from time to time, we found problems, and place one's been very good to jump on it quickly.
Okay. And I don't know anything about fire safety, so the only things I can think about are smoke alarms, sprinklers, and automatic doors. There may be other safety measures, but I'm not.
I don't think you
I'm
have any
not an
automatic doors,
expert.
right?
No,
Yours is manual.
everything's, no automatic doors. Nothing that would remain locked if there was everybody can get full access to exit the building. There's no doors that are operable that would restrict somebody from exiting the building.
Oh, yeah, that I would hope, always.
Our elevators have full elevator recall, and they were done 20 years ago. And then we just signed a modernization contract about 2 months ago where we're going to be doing that again. And the elevator company will be required to, they'll be submitting for permits if they haven't already, and that'll be blessed by codes. And I don't know if whatever
They'll go through-
requirements
go
will
through
be
all
there.
this. What recall is what he was mentioning, when the fire alarm activates, elevators automatically, from wherever they're at, will automatically recall to the ground level. Unless the fire is in that lobby or in that area, then it'll actually go to, in their case, the next level up. So you don't open up to a fire, it'll go actually to the second floor, so you at least get out there and go out the other thing. So that's what recall is. And the elevators will stay there, because you don't want people trying to use the elevators when there's a fire going on.
You're not supposed to, that's my
You're not supposed to,
understanding.
so you're supposed to use the stairwells. So when he mentions recall, that's what we'll
what
do.
that means.
We have, in the fire service, we have keys to override that. And then once the alarm is reset, I think yours actually have to be manually reset so the elevators will work again. Some of them, as soon as you reset the fire alarm, just the elevators go back to normal. Others, I think when yours were done, are just a manual reset, so maintenance just has to go and reset the elevator and they'll work again. But the alarm has to be reset for that to work.
And you've inspected our Knox box and everything's in there and so when they do their inspection, they come by and they look at they open the Knox box, which they control, and they can take the elevator out of normal operation and use it if they need to address something on a top floor. Instead of running up there, they take control of the elevators.
It's an override key.
Yeah.
The override program is saying, and they actually call it a fire department key. It's actually meant that you put it in, and if you ever look on elevators, there's usually you see two keys. One that's a general key, and then there's another key usually on there. You'll see a little fire helmet. That's the override one. That's the one that allows firefighters to say, okay, we can safely use this elevator, and overrides the program and a recall. As long as we have that key in there, we can actually go up and down with it. So as we remove the key, guess what? First floor. The Knox box he's referring to is a key box. It's on the outside of each building, where we keep. There's actually a big panel where it has actually a binder and lots of keys in there. It's only accessible to fire department vehicles, police vehicles, and several of the ambulances. Not individuals, but the vehicles. So that only we can get into it, and it has keys to access various parts of the buildings. So when he says Knox box, that's what Knox box is.
Is there also anything structural? I know when we talked at the open meetings that folks from Plymouth Hill share, like structurally, the building is steel and concrete, like.
Masonry and
Masonry.
steel.
Right.
It's all a masonry and steel
So
construction.
now we're talking
part.
about a different.
Yeah, this is
just
our
for the
building.
minutes, we're
Just wanna
now
ask
talking
about
about a
the-
different
Okay.
Yeah, so
building.
For the sake of the minutes, almost everything he said is similar
Okay.
to our building.
Okay.
Even the times when it was done, because I think the fire marshal at the time requested that these hardwired fire
There's a
detector.
fire alarm system in yours.
Yes, it's the
a
same.
different system,
But it's similar.
but it
similar.
still serves the same purpose.
Yeah.
So
I
it works the
didn't
same
mean to-
way individual condo owners cannot disable the fire alarm?
They can disable it, but
But
if they
it-
do, maintenance, the main panel should show an alert, and maintenance is supposed to.
Maintenance
do
has
something
to
with it.
go in because it's written in our rules that you cannot disable them, and if you do, we'll take it
no.
as a safety issue and send a maintenance person in to rehabilitate the situation. And the people can be fined immediately.
I was just curious though, if the same is true at Place One.
Your construction.
In terms of construction, like if that's another factor that sort of weighs in the favor of like fire safety or, reduction of fire risk.
We have full separation, concrete between floors. And, I mean, there's no better structure than this, than to have a masonry building. It's, anything above 4 or 5 stories is gonna be masonry construction.
Okay.
Which is great because it really contains the fire, much better than a residential 2-story would. It really, the spread factor is a lot less in mid-rise and high-rise buildings.
How about between apartments? Is it like firewalls or whatever? I don't know what you would call it, but, oh, I'm sorry, I thought I muted myself.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but
Double
between blocks
plywood?
of rooms, yes, but individual walls are drywall and such. So not every wall is concrete.
Right, and so inside a unit,
Inside a unit, that's gonna be your drywall.
Right.
Yeah,
and
it's
everything else.
drywall, 5/8 of an inch, fire rated.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Whenever anybody does work in their unit, they're required to have fire rated 5/8 drywall. It started out with it just, say to the hallway, my drywall is fire rated. To the next unit, my wall is fire rated. And now, because I had some work done, my wall to the storage closet is also fire rated. So we look at, in our architectural review forms, that people are actually doing this, follow up, look at the contractors. We have our maintenance people sometimes go in and inspect with the contractors as they're doing the work. After it's done, it gets inspected and we move on from there. But otherwise, as far as fire safety, like I said, similar to what Steve had said, we have a similar system. Everything's set up the same way. We have sprinklers in our chutes, our trash chute areas. We have fire extinguishers on every floor, multiple ones that are in the hose boxes, the old fire hose boxes that the firemen now carry their hoses in if they need to charge the standpipes and get water in. They'll carry the hose. We don't actually stock the hoses in those boxes. They're there to put a fire extinguisher in.
Same here, we had to remove ours.
Yeah, so the fire rated drywall, what percentage of units would you estimate have that?
I honestly couldn't tell you because I don't know. I'd have to have management review all the architectural forms from when it was first instituted. I know that a building that was built in 1974, 75 might have 1/2 inch on metal studs. And like I said, we require that when they have work done, that it's upgraded to 5/8. So I couldn't honestly tell you what percentage. All I know is we did have a fire. I've been here for 7 years. It was in the first year I was there, and it was a fully engulfed apartment that did
It
not.
wasn't fully, but
What's that?
it was a room contents bar.
It was a room that was,
Contents.
yes, and it didn't really go into adjacent. There was an adjacent unit on each side of it, and they were not affected. And we have the similar thing with my ceiling is the next person's floor 8 inches up, so it's concrete, reinforced steel concrete.
And how do the ceilings communicate laterally? Like, in other words, can a fire go through the ceiling into
No.
another
Absolutely.
unit?
There's
Oh,
op-
oh, wait a
there's
minute, yes.
openings that they can go through. Our last inspection, both facilities, but unfortunately for Plymouth Hill, maintenance has had to do a lot of gap work because there are a lot of open gaps, open chambers, and everything else required to easily go right through. The
Is that
concrete
just-
floor is there.
I mean, it can't go
But
up, but
there's
it can go
openings where they put in
across?
chases and everything else for utilities and such.
Oh, okay, yeah. We
So
did
those
see
things
that.
will go through.
Have to be sealed, right? Yeah.
They're supposed to be
Those are-
sealed, and
Mhm.
that unfortunately did not happen over the years.
Was it required to be happened at the time that it was constructed?
Whenever they're doing the work to either run utility, pull the utilities out, whatever, yes.
So you'd only catch that if somebody's doing work. I mean,
Yes.
that's, yeah.
Well, and I
Yes.
gotta tell you, what I'm gonna do, because in my memory, I just threw some trash down the chute, and I looked at the cable, you're talking the cable tubes and stuff like that. And
Yes.
okay, I looked at that and there's some type of a,
Oh,
Fire
there's a lot
retardant.
that have them, but we
Around.
got a lot that did not.
okay, well,
There's breaches, actually, well,
Well-
again, maybe off topic, we can talk
yeah, we
outside the
can,
meeting.
we can inspect.
But there's,
Yeah,
there may be a lot you guys are not aware of.
okay.
So when work is done, does code have to go, and I know we're talking about a rental place, and we're talking about ownership
Ownership,
condos,
mhm.
so, you know, if the laws, ordinances differ, let me know, but when work is done, some sort of work that would open a gap, utilities run or something like that, does that get inspected by someone from the township at the end?
Depending on what work is done, yes.
If it's
If you-
building maintenance, I'm sorry, if it's building maintenance, that would be on them. If it's individual unit owner, we're not allowed to put holes in the wall. We're not allowed to run electric lines through to another unit. We're not allowed to pretty much do anything that would open a gap between units. What the fire marshal was saying was there's piping, electricity. We just got cabled by Fios, Verizon Fios, and I think they had to come through conduit and
Yeah, in
if
some
that-
cases, they'll add it in.
Right.
Because a lot of times they,
Is the
well, for
township-
cable and all, they don't want to run it next to
We
electric.
would not
so-
inspect that. We wouldn't inspect that, though. Nobody would go out to inspect that.
They would not expect putting the chases in. Now, if you're doing work inside your room, I don't want to speak for Jim, but I think if it's repair patchwork or electrical, plumbing, something like that, if it's repairing something that just broke, I don't think you have to pull a permit for it, and they won't really worry about that. If you're doing new work, whether it be a condo or a rental unit, yes, then you actually have to pull permits.
So if
The code would be
Verizon
in to
is
inspect that.
upgrading, what bucket does that fall into? Inspection or no inspection?
Honestly, I defer to Jim to answer that
You don't
one.
need I don't know about you guys,
I
like,
don't-
I didn't
yeah.
need a permit to put Verizon in my house.
No,
But,
you don't
so,
need-
you know,
right.
so I
But
don't,
They
I
just
can't
run a
imagine
cable and,
anybody's
and
inspecting
the
that.
corners in like a chase form, and they cover it, or they put it under molding or something like that.
Yeah. If they're running the chase, that probably would, I might guess that might require one. But if the pipe is already there and they're just pulling a wire through it,
Oh, okay.
that wouldn't.
I gotcha. That makes sense.
If it's
Thank you.
just cable or Fios, telecom stuff, codes does not inspect those. If they're running electrical wire through and they're connecting at the other end, codes would get involved in that. And again, I almost leave, probably wish Jim's here, but he'd probably give you, I'm guessing he'd give you a similar answer to that, but he'd probably answer it even better. And you're aware of things too, so you might be more knowledgeable than me at that.
I might what?
Be more knowledgeable than me at that.
What, the code stuff? So I guess the next part is, you know, is there anything else that can be done? I mean, it sounds like you have a lot of good things in place, right? And I know you come through to do exit signs, your basic stuff, right? You do those
We
annual
go through and check.
inspections.
With our last couple rounds of inspections, we've got a lot of pushback from the facilities, and say in general. Not so much at one than we got from the other, but doors were replaced.
Okay.
Yeah, we
There
have
were a lot of problem doors and
magnetic fire
that-
doors, yeah.
That was,
An issue, yeah.
that
Some were
was,
being
there was a
prop-
lot of pushback
Some
on
were
that
being
one.
propped open and left open when
Correct.
they shouldn't
That,
have.
they're gone. They've been
And-
gone for a year and a half
And there were
now.
problem doors, but we eventually,
Got them fixed? Okay.
yes.
And when they're kept open 24 hours a day, when the fire alarm goes off, the magnets release and they automatically shut, and they have a panic bar that the residents can push on to get out.
And the
But
many
door's
broken
shut.
doors have now finally been replaced.
Okay.
So that was fortunately taken care of. And
So
like
that's
I said,
something
there's other
that-
things that I don't know would be appropriate to talk at this meeting again. I can talk with you
Yeah.
all about separately. That we're done. I give credit to the management people for helping push some stuff through. There were other things there with changing a fire lane, putting parking spaces in that were taken out because never went through zoning, never went through township, which they had to do, and wasn't approved anyhow.
But
That
you
has since been
changed
changed
that
back.
back.
It's all been-
Yeah,
it's
for
all been
parking
changed
in
back.
fire lanes, they had to be.
Okay, so
Once they-
these are some other existing things then. There's the magnetic fire doors, but another current safety measure is that there are painted fire lanes.
There were painted fire lanes.
Okay.
At some point, the facility decided to just put parking spaces in
Right,
with no approvals by anybody.
okay, but that's been returned to
That
fire lanes now?
has been turned back. Again, we got pushback on that, but I'm not gonna say from everybody, but we got pushback in general from the facility on that.
Mhm.
But that was changed back.
And I can say
And there-
for us, we're in the middle of paving projects where each of the parking lots are being paved, and we are ensuring that there are zones, safety zones, fire safety zones, that the striping and lining will be set up to prevent people from parking in fire lane
Yes.
space.
Now, a positive thing, like they mentioned, yes, it's concrete, steel, hard. That does not stop a fire from spreading. That does, as
Slows it.
Steve mentioned, it does delay it. Of course, the one thing to remember here is it's not usually the building that burns as much as it is the contents.
Yeah, the basic-
And something to remember, just so everybody here understands, over the years, when these were originally built, what do we have in our homes? Cloth, wood, not much plastic. Metal, like what things are nowadays. Mostly plastic or your polys. Wood, I'm glad to say, at least in my house, you see it. I saw some solid wood things, but a lot of the woods we have are actually laminates and layered.
They're compressed
So
with all that glue.
Yep.
What do
You
you
got
call
it.
it? Press board,
That's right,
yeah.
the glue and everything else. Fires now are burning far hotter and burning faster, creating worse stuff than ever before. The floors and ceilings that they have in the buildings, because they're high-rise, you have to have them. But there's pros and cons to that always. As much as the building won't burn, the contents still will. And in wood buildings, when they burn, you at least have holes that still self-ventilating. So from a firefighting perspective, believe it or not, concrete and steel keeps that heat in and makes things worse from a firefighting perspective or life survivability. Now, the good news is it does delay and hold back the fire from spreading as fast as it does. It can still spread, and it still spreads above up floors and everything else. But it definitely decreases fire spread. So that's definitely a plus in their favor. But let's keep in mind also that it's the heat that's being retained, all the stuff that's burning, the smoke, gases, and everything else that aren't going anywhere either. So as much as you might have a house fire where it burns through the roof, all that stuff, all those gases are venting. In the other buildings, you're not going to have that. That's why a lot of times in the high rises, you'll see us actually trying to break out windows, trying to gas out horizontally, if it hasn't already spread and gone up that way. So there are definitely pros and cons with that.
Yeah.
Both have been working with us on different inspections that we've done as far as fire inspections go. One recommendation I'm going to have for both facilities, but really for Plymouth Hill, I'd like to take back is another one we got pushed back on was furniture in the hallways. There's certain distance and at certain ends of hallways, especially the T ends, everything else. People putting tables and everything else out there.
As a decorative thing or just storage?
As a decorative.
Or decorative,
These are
yeah.
individuals, this is not like community furniture. You're talking about like individuals putting something?
Yes.
They put a little table
And
and
then
put
maybe
their
a
little
lamp on it.
pumpkin and.
that
Yeah.
kind of stuff.
Yes,
Gotcha.
and some have been about this long, at an event hallway where it tees and goes off. It becomes a fire safety thing because it's a tripping hazard. Where it came down to code was saying, okay, the code says it has to be exactly this many inches. That's what we got down to is, okay, give us exactly how many inches. We can, but your door screen's going, practicability is going to be, if there's a real fire, I think it's still going to be a tripping hazard. I'd like to recommend that for some fire safety.
Smoky. Yeah,
What's that?
dark and smoky.
Dark
yeah.
and smoky and everything else. The code also allows for things to be protruding off the wall. You can hang a picture, you can hang TVs off. Right? Allowing bigger furniture to be sticking out. They did good about some of the more straight areas, not having things in there. Umbrella stands, okay, that doesn't stick out too much. Still, it becomes a tripping hazard because when it gets dark, smoky, you're trying to rush out of there and you're not looking down, they're tripping hazards. Now we're not talking about floor mats and everything else.
Especially
We're
if you're
talking about
rescuing somebody who can't negotiate stairs, you know, like you're carrying out an infirm resident or owner,
Mhm.
yeah.
But even for the residents themselves, if they're looking to get out, and again, are you looking down? Most of us probably aren't, in reality. So I'd like to recommend that you at least look at that. We gave management the set minimum number of inches, but I think they're missing really the point of it is, okay, this table can stay, 'cause we're right on, or an inch more than that. We're allowed to have it. Until that resident opens the door, and the first thing you do is, rather than walking this way to get out, they walk straight out, and then they're going to nail their thigh on it or knee on it. It's going to hurt.
So it might
But
be
I'd
better
like to
if they-
recommend for fire safety stuff, you consider getting rid of all furniture in the hallways.
Yeah, and all or nothing might be easier than
Size,
inches.
this
It's
many
always a
feet.
slippery,
Size,
it's
yeah.
always a
The
slippery slope.
yeah.
That's
And
where
do your
they're from.
decorations on the door, you know, wreaths and, you know, hanging things for your holiday cards or whatever, you know, hanging ribbons.
Yeah, and see,
rather
that
than-
has me so smart, because they don't stick out that far, and they're usually up higher.
Yeah, you probably
I haven't seen any big,
trip
and pictures hanging off wall, picture frames, that's usually not an issue. You know,
Yeah,
somebody
that's
bangs it
another-
down, they're walking out, their shoulder's gonna hurt, but
They're not
nobody's
gonna
gonna fall
trip
down
and
because of
fall.
it.
Yeah, so,
I would also encourage you all, if you see a safety issue that you get pushback on yourselves and you don't think should be there, feel free to contact us and maybe we can help you with finding some information that might help you. Even if a code says, yeah, it's allowed, but you say, practically, this doesn't work, we can probably help you find something that says, this would be the way to go.
Try this instead of that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
that's fair.
We've had people in the past, I think that was already mentioned, you looked at black and white. We try and look at, yes, here's what the code says, here's your maximum, minimums, whatever. But we also try and look at the practical side of things. It's really what the intent of the code's all about, what we're trying to get at. And of course, I have to say, I still recommend in the long term,
I told him.
look at sprinklers. None of what we're talking about is going to replace the sprinklers. I mentioned to Karen also in the future years, I think the way I see some of the stuff going with codes in the next 5 to 10 years, they're going to be put in the life safety code, they're put in the body of the fire code.
what is that,
And
what do you mean?
The requirement for retrofitting.
It may become part of the life safety code instead of just part of,
The appendix?
Just as
It
part of the
being
appendix. It'll become part of the
separately-
main part of the fire code versus just being the appendix. I've seen, they're
So it
already.
doesn't have to be separately adopted?
Correct.
It's automatically?
And-
It'll be a
and
requirement.
The only way to do that is
Possible.
council got to say,
Just
okay, we're not doing the life safety code at all anymore, or not doing the fire code at all, and wipes out everything.
Can't get rid of the fire
Can't
code.
get rid of the
I
life
mean,
safety
goodness
So I
gracious.
encourage all you to start considering that in the future, again, planning. Now's the time to start thinking about it.
And that'd be
we've-
something beyond our
Your-
council,
your
that's something
ability,
that's
yes.
done nationwide with the fire.
Well, that's part of the fire,
Statewide.
what's put in the fire code, yes.
and statewide.
And the
building
life
code.
safety code
Yeah.
and the Pennsylvania UCC. So,
So it might be coming down the pike.
Could be.
Is there any value, Mike, in thinking about starting with common areas so that it's not a burden to individual homeowners or residents, but at least there's common areas covered in
we've
some of the high
recommended that
rises?
already. We have. Were you at the meeting last fall? Steve, I think you were.
I was.
Last fall? Okay. There was a meeting with management from both facilities. The council president from Plymouth Hill was there. I was there, Jim was there.
Oh, I was at that one. I
Yes.
thought you meant the formal hearing.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. No, that meeting.
Yeah.
One of the things we said, look into possible alternatives, and actually, I think it was Jim who first mentioned that then. that says, one of the things we recommend is, when you do this, do it in steps. Start with maybe common areas first. As an apartment or a condo becomes, once you do the hallways and the main corridors, and stairwells and all, then start saying, okay, when a space opens up, perfect time to go in there for a few days and sprinkler that area. At least that one's done. More become vacant because I think you have what, I'm probably way off on this, but do you have 3 or 4 sales a year at the condos? Or
Probably
up
we
more?
had 5 or 10 in the last year.
So-
I would say at
Maybe
least, I see the
more.
deed transactions, you have at least
Yeah.
that many,
Yeah.
yeah.
This is a real broad
There's-
conversation. We really need to get into detail on this to really help you
Yeah.
understand the costs and the impact it has.
Yeah, no,
But-
I
but
was just
it has to come
curious
up.
if there's.
It has come up, yeah, let's
Yeah.
let's take it back a little bit. Yes, it has come up. We've suggested that, as a group, we look into various alternatives to what was shared by that pack. And the one thing they put out there, there's a lot of alternatives that were never, ever considered. I'm sure he didn't want you to hear that. Not him, but. But there were a lot of different alternatives, and probably a lot of good ideas out there that were never heard. So there definitely are
Alternatives
options.
to what? Alternatives
Yeah.
to sprinklers?
No, sprinkler to building, but alternatives to going through asbestos and killing everything, which is what I heard at the one meeting.
Oh, I see what
The
you mean.
sales, the
Alternatives to
pitch.
installations.
Various,
Okay,
yes.
I just, before we
So
move
I don't
into
think we should, like
sprinklers
Steve
more-
said, go into that too far, but to answer the question, yes, there were things that were brought up.
Okay. Steve, do you have a problem at Place One with furniture in the hallways?
No.
Or residents are not allowed to do
They're
it?
not allowed.
No.
That gets thrown out if they do it. It has
Okay.
to.
Well, see, you have renters, so you're the owner rules.
Well, we notify them if they do
Well,
something
yeah,
like that.
sure, they may not
But
have.
we can't have that.
Yeah, place one's
We have
been very.
wheelchairs and everything else. It's not safe.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I know the entire sprinkler conversation is controversial, but I feel like that's the kind of the point of being here. Like, if there are interim solutions or less intrusive solutions that move down the pike that perhaps, like, we're gonna have to move down someday anyway, I mean, is it reasonable to talk about those?
I think there's a lot of things, my own opinion is, I think we should talk about fire safety, fire prevention stuff,
Mhm.
because ideally, best way to survive fire is not to have one. So what all can we do to make sure there are not fires? Unfortunately, as we learned out there, every one of the 3 buildings have had fires of varying degrees. I've been in a lot of the apartments, for fire alarms and other things. I've been in several condos. There's a lot of potential, just like in homes. The homes, we can go right down the street, and there's a lot of potential out there.
So.
But there's a lot of stuff that
What are
I think
some of
could
the
be
most
helpful.
common
Yeah,
things that you see, Mike, that, because it sounds like education's gonna be, fire prevention is education.
Yes.
I mean, you have to be educated for it. Can you name some of the things that people should be educated about, that they would make it safer within their own apartments? Because who wants a
Yes.
fire in your own apartment, especially if you've got, your little 3rd grader sleeping in his bedroom, you don't want a fire in your own apartment, so, or condo.
I'll answer that, but first throw in, if you ever want me to come and talk at your facilities to residents, we're open to doing it. We offered it a year ago and no one ever called us back. However, to do that, yes, the ones I've seen, usually it's cooking fires, kitchen fires, and other things. We can talk to people, you hear it a lot. Don't leave things on the stove unattended. People walk away from those. I've been in at least an apartment and a condo, both where they were elderly residents, and they had, because they can't reach the cabinets, they leave stuff on the counters and actually on the stovetops. That was the scary part. They were using their oven and they had, one had cereal boxes on her stovetop. That's where she stores her stuff. I said, what if you ever accidentally turn the stove on? Oh, I don't do that. okay, what can you say to that? Just, you use one of your burners, actually she uses two of them, and she just used the other side. The carport's still that close. Electric is always a big issue. Overloading outlets, overloading surge protectors or power strips, running extension cords underneath the carpets, underneath the furniture, outlets not being plugged in all the way. They all have heat, however, we have seen space heaters. Do you guys have any rules on space heaters? I mean, I don't know, there's no code against it, it's just,
The whole
I'm
building,
asking.
the whole building's P-tax. I don't know what your systems are.
Yeah, that's what we heard.
Yeah, so they have that.
Which is basically electric heat.
Yeah.
It's like a space heater, but it's through the wall.
But,
Yeah,
but
but
does it
those-
go, is it like October 15th to April 15th and people are cold in between
No,
sometimes?
no.
It's
No,
not
no.
like that,
No, no,
okay.
no.
Everyone
Okay.
controls their own
Okay.
It's like being in a
Set your own.
hotel.
hotel.
Okay, okay.
Yes.
Every room.
It's probably the
Yeah.
safest
Individually.
heat
Sure.
source that you
Good.
could ever have in a building.
Yeah, good.
Like,
A
there's no
complex like
fossil,
that, yes.
we have zero
Yep.
fossil fuels. We do. I can't speak for you guys. No fossil fuels in units. So.
No, yeah, same.
Oh, yeah.
As far as fire risk from mechanicals or anything, they're extremely safe buildings. We have-
It's mostly what people bring in with them. So when I say space heaters, I'm thinking of ceramic space heaters. People use as personal heaters.
You know, some
That's what
people
we've seen
who
in some
just
of them,
tend to
'cause
be
they just wanna
extremely
heat up
cold
an area,
natured and you live with other
And they'll have it
people.
right up against combustible. It's usually right near their couch, or in one case, it's right next to their bed. They can heat up pretty good, and they can light linen and cloth on fire. So those are some of the things we've seen in. I mean, I'm sure I could go through and look at pictures of different fire scenes that we've had, the different things. But those are some of the ones that just jump right out at me. Typical fire safety things, and it's not said just to the apartments or the condos. This is things you see all over the place. But there's so much more potential there because you have so many more residents in.
You've seen space heaters being used in Plymouth Hill condos?
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to address that. That's.
Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying everybody.
They're not illegal.
I've seen them.
Yeah,
No, I know they're not illegal,
Yeah,
but
you have
neither is
barbecue.
a barbecue grill.
Yeah.
But people use them,
Yeah.
not in ours.
Barbecue
but-
grills are limited to being on the ground 15 feet from the building, unless your facilities specifically forbid them.
We
Which
forbid
we
them
do.
on balconies, we forbid them in the units, and to me, a space heater is just a barbecue grill with a different look.
Without a steak.
Yeah, without the steak. Well, if it could cook a steak, I might get it.
Now, I will
Nice
say
big-
space
That's
heaters
very
nice
good.
if you keep. Big thing with them is just keep the clearance, and they can do a nice job. I'm not telling you to remove space heaters. You'll probably
Keep
have a
their
lot
electric
of
bill down.
folks.
Try to keep their electric bill
especially-
down with
yeah,
a space
they're
heater.
going to be a little upset of like, how am I supposed to keep my this one area warm or something like that. My thing with space heaters is it's just too close to combustible.
No.
You have a
Need 'em.
far greater chance of people using space heaters in a residential home, like garden style, and you wouldn't need. Basically, our units are space heaters.
Yeah.
If you're
There's a
an
unit
interior
in
unit, yeah.
each bedroom and a unit in the living room, so it's just heating and cooling that one space.
Yes.
It's pretty, and it's forced hot air, so it's, like I
It-
said, it's a very safe unit, and it has a high limit control on it.
Yeah.
So if anyone puts a sofa in front of it or anything, it trips out because of the high limit control.
Well, they can't block
Gets
it.
too
It gets, it
If the
it
heater
heats
gets
itself
too hot.
and yeah.
Shuts off if it gets
Now,
too
if
hot.
fabric gets too hot, that's a different story. But yes,
Yeah, so both places, Place One and Plymouth Hill, have bans on barbecue grills even on balconies?
Oh, yeah. There's no barbecue grill allowed on the balcony, electric or gas or charcoal.
Nothing.
We do have charcoal pits on the property, but they're about, 70 feet from the building?
Yeah, they're closer to the street.
Yeah, they're closer to the border than they are to the building. I just want to mention one thing that I'm getting in the theme here. It's personal responsibility and personal knowledge. I think the direction we might want to go in that'll give immediate response would be to have meetings, talk about fire situations and the chance, the risk, what you're doing wrong, and educating the people, because we can we can call for a meeting and have it in our social room, and how many people would show up. And then we would publish the results of it so that all the people would know. Maybe they're gonna start looking, because if they haven't, oh my gosh, I remember I did put that extension cord under the carpet, and that's a fire hazard. So if we can eliminate that, it'll reduce, not
Reduce the
not
potential.
prevent, but
That's
it'll
what we're looking for.
reduce. Okay, all right.
So that sounds like a great opportunity. I mean, thinking about some some individual sort of responsibility fire prevention. Is there anything, Mike, from a systemic perspective, when you think about prevention, that we should also address? Because I love that. I mean, I love sort of your openness to like, let's do this. Let's get information in people's hands.
Mhm.
Is there anything else systemically that we should think about that would be more preventive?
I'd have to look back at our inspections, and I don't, like I said, I don't see what they have for rental inspections. I could always ask Jen to look over theirs and see what we have there. One thing, I don't mean to pick on one versus the other. Place one's been great to work with. Every time we put stuff out to them, okay, here it is, here's the code, they do it. Plymouth Hill, unfortunately, sometimes they did it, and then sometimes we got pushback. All we ask for is, if there's questions, contact us. And we'll explain why. Because I think that's a lot of times, like, as you mentioned, educate. There's a reason these codes are in place. We're not picking and just say, you have to do it because of this. There's a reason for it. I try to tell people when I go out to do inspections of businesses and all, there's a reason there's warning labels on boxes. There's a reason there's a warning label that says, do not eat a light bulb. Stuff has happened out there. Codes are the same way.
I was
A lot
always
goes-
told it was lawyers that are
Bag's
responsible
not a
for
toy.
that.
Somebody
Some
taped it.
lawyer.
I'm not saying anything because we're being recorded. But yeah, but you know what I mean. It's, a lot of times it's educating
I won't hold it
and
against you.
help people understand stuff. One thing I have seen and asked to do is when the fire alarm goes off, we try and work with you in inclement weather to keep people in the lobbies. Okay, so it's 30 degrees outside. Just make sure residents know that spread out. If it's nice weather, everybody should be outside. Nobody should be in hallways or in the lobbies and stuff like that. Definitely work to get that, because I think unfortunately now it's getting everybody's, I'm not going outside. You got the alarm's
Sure,
going
people
off.
can
You
always
need
go to
get
that car.
outside.
You know, you can go to your vehicle,
Yes.
except for the first few people that are infirm and can't do it, but to dissipate the congestion in the hallways.
Absolutely.
You can go to your car, turn on the radio, and wait for it all to end.
I have a question. Are you familiar with the special needs registry?
The county one.
Let me go back a second. In our rules and regulations, I just moved in a year ago.
Mhm.
So as part of it, it says for special needs, you'll need to register to be listed on the special needs registry. And then they gave us a www.specialneedspa.org. That website does not work.
That does not surprise me, because I think they got rid of that. I think the county got rid of their special needs
Okay.
registry too.
Because
Is-
if it
I
says
think it's
PA,
type
that
of
was
state.
state, yeah.
That was state.
If it says
Okay.
.pa, that was the
They
state.
don't give us any information.
Okay, is there anything that can be done? Because we have people with walkers, wheelchairs, and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And the theory was that if you can't get down the steps or can't get to the steps, you could go out on the balcony, and the fire department or the police or whomever would know where you were in the building and could come get you if need be.
We will try and come get you. Yes.
Right.
Um,
Does that exist?
Yes.
Okay, how do we do
Here's
it?
how. Your facilities are supposed to be, I believe, notifying me and providing me a list, yet neither of them have been.
Oh, what, of handicapped people?
Special needs.
Special
needs.
Yes.
Anybody
I keep track.
bedridden,
I've
on
had
oxygen.
both facilities.
Uh-huh.
I've had residents call me. If that's your procedure, that's fine too.
Right.
Then maybe you guys don't keep a list generally. You just say, and then I basically got a spreadsheet. When I do, I've been now sharing with the fire department, so they want to keep it somewhere.
Is
So
there a
they're basically we're
form?
doing it locally. We
That we
don't
can
rely on the
fill out?
county or the state, and they don't. And when they did have a list, they never provided it back to us locally either.
Did the police keep it too, so they know when officers respond?
I don't know.
Okay. it's a good idea to share with them too.
Mhm.
Some people can't get out of bed, some people are on oxygen when you lose power, some people have machinery that needs to be keep moving,
Yep.
And if you're in a walker, it's tough to get down steps.
Absolutely.
Correct.
Yeah.
So just to
So
kind
I
of
definitely encourage
centralize
you.
that
Let me know.
effort, like, is it
Yeah,
possible,
so
like,
what you would like us to do is go to our people and say, who of you has an issue and would need help
Special need.
getting out of the building, rather than being able to walk down 3 flights of stairs or 8 flights of stairs.
But
Why don't we
I'm
make-
wondering if, to your point, though, we should actually have a form, like something, so
Yeah.
we don't have to just count on a resident remembering to
Right,
tell us whether
right.
or not they had oxygen, like is
Name,
it
phone
possible,
number.
Karen, like if we
Is
had
that
a
something the
township
township
form,
could do, and it could be shared with our
Yeah, so shared
police
with the
fire
police, shared with
marshal
the
and
fire, so.
fire
That'd be a
marshal
good
could
idea,
share
put
it
up a
with our
form on
fire.
website.
I think that the county had it at one point, because
County
every
had
time
it.
911, because the county dispatches 911. So if you had even a medical emergency in your unit, it would kind of show up that, oh, this person, is on oxygen, or this person is bedridden.
I know
or
right
this-
now, I
You
update
have
the
a
county
list.
with that information
Yeah.
also.
You
But I don't
have-
have a list, I have my list.
You have a list.
And when we find out that information, we pass it on to the county so they can actually update it too.
So the
What
county
about,
does keep a list.
But you
No.
send it to,
I don't know.
I'm
They
gonna go
used
with your
to.
sticker around.
What she's talking
Yeah.
about in dispatch is based on the information I give to the dispatch center.
yeah, so you're sending stuff to the county, but you're not
Correct.
getting anything from the county.
Correct.
So if we wanted to have a database of this, we should create our own so that.
I have a
it has-
spreadsheet, I've got
yeah,
on
so-
my spreadsheet.
Yeah, so that it lives with
Has-
you.
Yeah.
Well, I like what I was thinking is, if you had a form, just real simple,
Yeah.
name, address, what
Unit
unit
number.
you're in, and something like that.
And what your needs, what are your special needs?
Exactly.
Right, right.
Walker,
Electricity.
wheelchair,
And then we could get,
refrigeration.
we could go to all
Yeah,
our
some
people
people
with the
need
form and say,
preventative.
fill
Yeah,
this out, and then we
oxygen.
could get them and bring them to you.
I
or bring them
believe
to the
both
police.
facilities had that, either have it still or had it at one time. But they haven't been submitting it to us.
Okay, but,
But we
You
could
have-
start.
I know,
Yeah.
in all
Yeah,
fairness,
it's in there.
place one, I hear from management every once in a while, they'll let me know. And
Okay.
like I said, I've heard from residents. I'm not trying to pick on one or the other. again. Just-
No, that's all right.
No,
we
It
can-
happens to
That's
me
okay.
that
It changes.
I've got a
Everybody's
special
lifestyle
sticker I want
changes.
to put on all our
Sure,
windows.
people come and go.
Yeah.
Other
You know where the
places.
people are.
yeah, that
But-
might
Maybe
be
a little
another
Yeah.
fire helmet or something on a window, so when you look
Like
up,
on a
you
sliding
go,
glass
oh, that's
door.
it.
the, if it was
Yeah, that's-
iridescent or something, then
That's a great
then the
idea
police
too,
could see
because,
that.
I mean, it's one thing to
No,
have a
it's
form, but it's another thing to actually have a visual cue, like. in the
Correct,
moment of.
somebody on the
Yeah.
outside
Problems with
seeing
it.
and knowing.
No.
They probably won't do-
If somebody,
The
you
ladders
always
don't reach to the top of these
notify them
buildings, and that's
to
the whole
make a
point
call.
of-
Yeah.
If they
doesn't- doesn't
if
mean
things
you're
changed
gonna
in their
see-
life.
See that
Yeah.
up on.
Like
Because
style
sometimes
changes.
people
Floor, that
move
doesn't
in
mean
and
they're
they're
gonna
fine,
get
and
to
then
it.
they break a hip,
Exactly.
and they end up
And
with a
visually,
walker and
so
never
you get up to
use.
the
can't
fourth
see
floor,
that.
you
Do
get
they
out to the
contact the
But I have
police?
three
Yeah.
Unless
walls
it's
that are
this
ready
big.
So
to
you
be
could put them
put
on
up,
the
and they're all
like
dead.
for second floor house,
It's
you
not
know,
for the
you-
police.
that are
It's
kids' rooms.
information
You
in
have
the
that.
management
Right.
office.
Details for going down
So it
all
should
that
all
behind
run
To your
through the
point.
police.
That, I've
It's
seen that on
who's
the
following
Yeah.
up, and I did.
Yeah, so inside, so if you're inside, and you're on a floor helping already, you can see that someone is in here
Personal
that needs help.
And it shouldn't
responsibility
just
Yeah,
be for
I got
mid
you.
rise and high rises.
Now,
It should be for
there's-
the entire community.
I think that's where the list will
Yeah.
become a better place. Who's actually an invalid, who cannot make it out of the room, who's basically tracking who's in there. 'Cause one of the things we don't want to do is, we could go through, I'll go up Plymouth Hill here. A lot of your residents will probably have a lot of those. If we start saying, okay, we're looking for one or two people in the room down this hallway, you could probably have half a hallway with those identifiers.
some
And most of those people are down in the lobby. They're already out. Now we're taking time to check empty areas. We really want to focus on the ones where we know the people are, or they've called from, or they're
Right.
on their balcony, or something like that. Now, what could probably be a good thing here would be, again, come in, do some training with them. Here's really the best practice, here's best solutions. Ideally, for every resident, get out of the building. If you physically aren't able to, what are the limitations? What is the best way to do? There's what we call areas of refuge. Balcony could be one of them. If the fire's below you, that's not an option. That's again how fire and smoke will spread from floor to floor. So do you work down the hallway? And I'm not gonna take time to say, but first you go down the hallway. Is it clear? Okay, then make your way down to the stairwell. If you're in the stairwell, stay in the corner so you don't block everybody else from getting out, down and out. But that can be an area of refuge, because guess where the fire department's gonna be coming up? The stairwell. If there's smoke in the stairwell, back in the hallway, go to the other stairwell. It's a long thing, I won't go to all here, but some things we can go through and help educate everybody on of like safety. There are times when you want to stay in your apartment. That is the best thing. And other times when, okay, let's work your way out if you can. If there's smoke in the hallway, you're not going down that hallway. You're staying in. Like at the bottom,
Towels,
closet's bottom of
blankets,
the floor,
yeah.
yep, go over to your balcony. But we can talk about that in a training thing. And although I'm looking at you guys, I'm absolutely open to place one as well. We definitely do talks and all kinds of fire prevention, fire safety stuff. We do it for businesses now. We do it for the schools. It's just a different audience. And if there's certain topics you want us to explore, let us know. We have some businesses that do that now. It's like, we really have a problem here at our business. Can you make sure you go in on that one? We can. We do fire extinguisher training. We can do all kinds of stuff for you. Educating is really good.
So do either of your facilities have anything, I mean, I don't know how to explain it, but I know when I worked in high-rise buildings in Center City, you know, each business, but maybe in apartments it would be each floor, we had to have like a fire captain who was responsible for keeping track of everybody. And when you left the building, you know, that person was and there was someone, if she was or he was out sick that day, someone else would do it. And when we had our fire drills, you know, they had to account for everybody in the office. And I don't know if either of your facilities have that for, say, like your floor, and one person on the floor knows everybody who, I don't know, do they know everybody who lives there? I don't even know how neighborly people are, you know.
Well, the funny thing is, we do have captains for each floor, but most of that was to save money distributing communications to people that didn't want to receive it on a electronic basis. There's a lot of there are I wouldn't say a large number, but a significant number of people that aren't on the internet, that don't probably know a lot about what's going on in the world today.
So maybe they could also,
So the
Be able to
captains
say,
would be
you know,
able to collect the list, but I don't know.
Mrs. Murphy is
Okay.
bedridden, and so,
I would hesitate. We would probably have to contact our condo lawyer, because how invasive are we going to get into
yeah.
the lives of people? And I know it's a fire safety issue, but I can see getting a list. I can see fire captains looking out for, but neighbors usually help other neighbors. I helped a dozen neighbors get out down the fire stairs when the alarm went off, and I have a 20% refraction on my heart, so I could justify failure, and I'm up and down the steps a dozen times trying to help people get out. So,
God bless you.
well, I was an old captain of an engine company years ago, and I ran into building. People go, well, what'd you do? You run in. You have to. There's people you need to save, and I've been in those situations. But getting that knowledge and knowing who, it's one thing that people come to you for help. It's the other ones that don't come to you for help that are the most scary.
Such a great workout now.
In my consideration. So I think the captain idea is a good idea I want to pursue, but I also want to talk to legal to find out if we can legally start getting information and interfering in people's
and why
lives.
is that, Steve? I mean, because I know they're renters and they
We
don't-
went through this before,
Yeah.
and it was a failure for us, because we're rentals, we're not condos.
Mhm.
And the captains would linger. They weren't getting out. In a fire scenario, people have to get out. And these guys kick in doors. If the other person's asleep and someone's now they got two problems on their hand. They got the person in the unit, plus they have the captain trying to get in the unit, or trying to wake that person up, where they take the door. And this wasn't by us. This was driven from a fire marshal. And they said, get out of the building. Don't linger.
Oh, well, what
The
I was talking
captain-
about the fire captains is they take attendance outside. They do not stay and
They-
make sure we all get out of our offices.
Yeah.
What
Again,
they
we-
did was they kept track of we had a meeting place
Yeah.
where our
That's what I was
office
gonna
was
say, what
supposed
if
to
it was
be.
something simple, like the captain is responsible, like second floor meets over here. And even if the captain does nothing more than just say like, oh, I know Mrs. Jones is in apartment 6 and she's not here and she might need help, right? Or we've got these 12 families accounted for and 1 missing. Doesn't mean you personally run back in, but at least you can give somebody a heads up that maybe there's a person that needs help or a family that's not accounted for.
Yeah, like Unit 111, you know.
The fire
I don't
chief
see them.
usually, and I'm just telling you just from experience, because we have a 40% turnover of residents, you know,
Yeah, that's
in the
eventually.
building. So one of the first things that happens is we have a rent roll that's electronic that goes, it's right there. We have it right at our fingertips, and then the fire marshal or whoever's on site who takes charge, they actually do the
Oh,
attendance
okay.
and check
Oh,
things
okay,
like
so you got
that.
that.
And then if there's units that aren't accounted for, they make sure that,
Yeah, that's-
you know, they've cleared the building by this time. So it's not like they're in the building, they're making sure everybody's out, they're really doing, you know, what they need to do. And which entails kicking in doors, windows, anything that's needed pertaining to, it's not just fires, it's a lot of different things that go on, unfortunately, so.
And don't think we go looking for the whole building either, because usually what we're gonna do is we're gonna focus on, if there's smoke coming from one apartment, guess what?
Where
we're
the
gonna focus
fire
on?
is.
That floor,
Above,
those
below.
apartments on either way, and there you go. Like
Yeah,
Steve
really.
said, above and below, that's what we'll be focusing on. The rest of them, yeah, we'd like to see people get out. Unfortunately, we're going down the hallway and, can you turn that alarm off? Can you get out of the building?
And then it will
We
be
see
Unit-
that stuff, but where's our focus gonna be? Get it out, and then if there's fire in that area, and that's where that list that Steve mentioned is become very crucial for us, and I think that's great that they have that. Who in that area, that's where we'll go after first. If somebody's unaccounted for, that's your part. Are we gonna go up to the top floor or bottom floor or somewhere in between? Well, we have this resident over in this apartment. Good, the fire's over on this side, we're focusing on those residents first. And then work our way back, because they're the most immediate need.
The one scenario that you guys worked on, we now have voice enunciators. So when, I guess the fire chief or whoever showed up, he was on the he told people to stay in place. I forget what it
Every
was.
time we do that.
We don't want a mass exodus, you know, a mad rush out the building. If we don't need to, when they assess the thing, they go right on the microphone, which they plug in, right? And
Yep.
they're able to talk to the
PA
whole
system.
building and control.
And say the only floor that
control
needs to
the
leave
height
is
and
this.
and not have people tripping over, pushing and
Yeah.
and usually our system sounds, so if on the third floor triggers, it's now, it only alarms the fourth and first floor, or second and fourth, sorry. And so that there's not that mass exodus. Now, if it goes into a different alarm, it's a different scenario.
As it spreads, it
multiple
gets further and
triggers.
further out.
It's a very smart system. It's so it's pretty neat how it all works. You know, whoever designed it's brilliant. So.
And it's called a voice enunciator?
The voice enunciator was part of the alarm system.
It's part of the alarm system,
Alarm-
it's a separate
okay.
box.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
If you go into their lobby.
Yeah, I've seen the
You'll see a
plugins
little
with
plug and a
with
little
the
phone.
phones.
That's
Okay,
it. Yep.
so we have it too. Okay,
Yes.
great. I just
Yeah.
need to become
The fire
familiar.
company uses that.
I need to become familiar with that. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, I know the fire company.
We-
I'm
we
not
will-
gonna touch it.
When we need to, like you said, we'll use that. There are times when also, depending on what the alarm is, again, if it's burnt food or something like that, or just one apartment, okay, let's try and get everybody else back in, and just worry about that localized area if we can. A lot less people for us to deal with. Get everybody back in, now we know where they're safe, and there are times when you need to get out, times when you need to at least get in the hallway stairwells, and times when you just need to stay in your apartment or condo.
You know, going back to this thing about how most of our home furnishings give off toxic gases now when they burn, it might be good when you're talking with people about fire prevention is, you know, even though the fire alarm went off in your unit because something you had on the stove caught fire and started burning, you need to leave anyway because other things in your apartment, like your rugs or your sofa, might catch, and you may not have a fire, you may not burn up, but you know, you may not be a fire hazard, but it'll be a toxic smoke hazard.
Yeah, a good
You know,
point.
all the
Absolutely.
formaldehyde and plastics that are put into the stuff and polyesters that we have now.
A
Not
sofa
good to
can
breathe when
kill
they
you.
burn.
A sofa can kill people
Cause of death, sofa.
far more than fire does.
Yeah.
A sofa. Just because of the gases.
Yeah, the toxic gases it gives off, yeah.
All facilities are non-smoking, I believe, correct? So I think that's a definite plus.
50 feet away from the building.
Oh, so they can't smoke on their balconies?
Some people do, and when there's formal complaints, we deal with that.
Well, look, I'm talking about what are the rules. People breaking rules, you know, we have stop signs that people don't stop for, so at
We
least.
do too.
At least you have a rule.
And a speed limit that they don't follow
Yeah,
either.
but at least there's a rule about it, and you
Yes,
can
they
take
do have
action.
rules for no smoking. But
Okay.
he's correct, there are some on the balconies, and I don't know, if there's at least one condo that I was in, don't ask me which one, it was a couple of years ago for a fire alarm, that we did happen to see that there were cigarette butts inside the room. Don't know if they're smoking inside or outside, but
But
they
the
may,
butts were
they may
inside.
put them out and brought them inside, to be fair.
Yeah, they may have brought their ashtray
Yeah,
inside.
I mean, it's
Probably unlikely.
probably unlikely. I'm hoping.
Unlikely.
Hoping it's all about. But that is a positive thing, that there's no smoking in their buildings.
I didn't know
So,
that.
as a rule.
I was gonna say, and I only bring it up because I saw a picture, and I really forget which place it was in. Mike knows, I'm sure, but, and I don't know what you can do with this, because it's really a disease, but hoarding is another issue. And,
I was going to bring that up because I had a resident come up to me and say, I have these 4 ideas. The top idea of hers was hoarding. And what we're
It's an issue.
looking into is when we do the fire alarm inspections, that when the maintenance person and the fire checker go in, they spot hoarding, they report it. We did have, and I think it was a few years ago, a renter who was found to be a hoarder, and they were actually ejected from the building because they were a renter that was hoarding and causing.
I think it was what, yeah, 2 years?
It was
2
about
years, a year or 2 ago.
yeah, it was a year or two
Or
ago.
just as COVID hit, or just before it then.
Mhm.
So I remember seeing that from codes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right. I
try
forgot about
to
that.
address it whenever you see it, but.
So, I mean, the condos are private, it's personal, it's just like my house. No one can come in my house unless there's a reason for them to do it.
Or you
know.
invite them in, yeah.
What is it with condos? I mean,
Pretty much the
Same
same.
thing.
Condos are
Well,
the
so
same
you
way.
can't be
If
inspected.
it's a safety issue, maintenance is allowed to go in, and everybody's key is in the office.
Yeah.
And if there's a safety issue or a detectable safety issue or the thought of a safety issue, they'll take the key and they'll knock on the door, take the key and go in. We had a guy that his door alarm was gone off, and maintenance was called. It was in the night, and they basically came in with the key, and here he had changed his lock, so they had to take his doorknob off and get into, and he was asleep in his bedroom and never heard the alarm going off. So
That's hard to believe.
we do have
It's loud.
access in, it's in our rules and regulations that if there's a possible safety issue or a residence in harm's way, we're allowed to go into their, well, I'm not allowed, but the maintenance is allowed to go in.
Will maintenance report hoarding if they see it? Does maintenance know what hoarding is?
Well, we're actually, that's another thing we're looking into as far as a legal issue of how far you can get into somebody's personal life, but hoarding is, once it's identified
If it becomes
as
a
a
safety issue,
fire
as a
safety issue, then
code
it will
enforcement
be,
can go in.
it will be, okay,
They
excellent.
can do that for private homes. We do it for rentals now. But see, for private homes, again, it has to be somebody reporting it. And then the only way we get into a home or condo, if the owner refuses, would be, again, Jim can comment on this because he's probably going through it, but you have to get an administrative warrant to go into that. For rental units, it's the property. We've had, I can't say that I've had it in place one, but I know we've had them at other apartments where there were hoarding conditions. There were some private homes where,
I know.
yeah, we had to get a
I'm familiar
warrant
with
to
a few
go
of
in.
those, yeah.
All the
and
TV
take care of
Sometimes
things.
the medical
Yeah,
emergencies.
that's-
that's scary.
Medical
get you-
emergencies.
Medical emergencies sometimes get you in the door, and then it gets the code enforcement people in as well.
Yeah.
The police call sometimes.
The rentals, we found them doing rental inspections. And the medical emergencies, a lot of times we find in the private homes, that's usually when we find out about them. Or from a neighbor, or a lot of times it's a family member who reports things.
Mhm.
How can we get this? Because
It's a death
it's
trap, yeah.
a disease.
Yeah, it's.
I do a hoarding training class for the emergency services. And it's actually a mental,
Right.
it's a mental illness. And that's what we try and help the emergency responders. These are the steps you need to take from their perspective, things to look for. So it comes in stages. And what some people think are hoarding may not be, and what some people may think are
Is not-
okay
it's-
is not okay. It can lead down a path. That could be another training program if you want to go through it. We don't mean to make everybody paranoid and look in their neighbors.
Yeah, they be
reporting
reporting their
everything.
neighbor's doors surreptitiously. Oh, look.
We've got a collector who had a whole wall full of stuff. Somebody's like, well, he's a hoarder.
It's on the wall.
Most of the center room's open. He's just got stuff literally ceiling or floor to ceiling covering the walls. That does not make him a hoarder.
Right.
Makes him a sports nut, but not a hoarder.
Fanatic fan.
A fanatic to the extreme.
Oh,
But yeah, I mean that brings up a very good point as far as hoarding and all goes. Things
So-
to look for and things to maybe help do that. And
Mike, does Plymouth Hill have a fire alarm system similar to what Steve was describing for Place
they
One?
both have
where-
fire alarm systems. Yes.
So that if anything's disabled, it lights up at a
It-
panel?
Correct.
So people can't
Yes.
just disable it when the.
We've
they're
had
doing
somebody
their breakfast
where
every morning.
we've had one not that long ago where, to the best of my knowledge, from the indications was he pulled the smoke detector down. Probably, my understanding was may have been an issue for a little while. It's only when the alarm company went in and trying to fix the problem that's the one where the resident refused to let anybody in. And it started going down the path of I started filling out the warrant form. Fortunately, I was able to talk him out of that and not go down that path, and it ended up with a happy ending. Yeah, we had to start going down that path. But yes, they have a system that does alert, and then it's going to be a human thing to say go in there, follow up, do the things. Now that's where Plymouth Hill has the problem of they are condos. Steve actually has it a little easier in that there are rental units, their property.
Yeah.
They can go in as need to, and they've had tenants do that, and he can get far quickly resolved without issue.
Steve, are you interested in having a fire prevention presentation for your residents or your renters?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I believe you're pretty connected with property manager, and
Yeah.
we're very open to it.
When people hold a seminar or something, our lives are so busy, not everyone can attend. Is there a way where a flyer with the highlights could be distributed at everybody's door or something at the
We have an
end of it?
electronic system where
Yeah.
everyone has to sign up for, and we send stuff out seasonally. We're coming into the season now where, believe it or not, it's one of the big fires. 90% of our fires are from kitchens across our portfolio. It's always kitchens, and a lot of times the first time we have them is the night before Thanksgiving, where they use their broiler underneath as their storage area for their mittens and everything.
Uh-huh.
And they go to warm up their oven, or they use the oven as storage. And they turn it on to preheat it, and then they bring it out, throw it across the room, and it happens.
Yeah.
And so we send out seasonal updates, because it's constant. Like, fire prevention's not just once annually. It's like we have to keep it in their face. Like, hey, watch what you're doing. Watch your cords. Christmas trees. You name it. I mean, we've had it. Had the issues. So now we have a program where it's a nice, happy announcement. But beware. Be cautious. Be smart. Things like that. So it's great. The electronic notifications are excellent. because we can keep it in their face all the time, you know.
So you say electronic, how do they get it? On
Email.
Oh, emails. Do they all have email?
Most of them.
Yeah.
In today's world, and I know almost everybody has it, or there's someone in their family that has it. And we require that when they move in to have some type of electronic notification. It's been creeping up. When I first started, it was maybe 10%, 20%, now it's
Yeah.
almost 100% at this point. Everybody has some kind
How about your folks?
of.
Is
Okay, we
everybody
do
connected, or-
multiple communications.
Yeah.
Email is one for those that are registered for email. We also have a system called VOLA, where the people that are registered with their phone number get voicemail messages that this is happening, that's happening. We also do flyers. Flyers are put in the elevators, on bulletin boards. Basically, there's that, and I did say email, VOLA. We have what's called a town square that our management company has, where we have 266 out of 337 residents are on there. Messages are put on there. Anything that's on a flyer
Is that
is on there.
electronic, your town
It's
square?
It's town square. You get through your phone or through a computer. And what else do
What
we have?
percentage of your units do you think have email, have given you guys
I
email?
won't know that because we're in the process of putting together a phone directory that includes emails with of people that want to share emails. But in my estimation, there are people that are on a Facebook page. It's not Plymouth Hill Condo Association sponsored, but there's a Plymouth Hill Facebook page that they communicate with each other. And as I said, there's 266 people out of 337 that are registered on the town square where all the messages can be. And then everybody passes by the bulletin boards and everybody takes the elevators. So for something like this, 90% of the residents would know, maybe 99. And we can have as I said, we have floor captains that distribute these flyers to people that aren't registered through phone or through email.
If you're breathing and you can read, you shouldn't miss anything in our.
Yeah, we try to keep
You're
people informed.
choosing to miss it if you miss it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They're in the elevators. Most people have to go up and down the elevator. If they're in where the mail comes in, they're there. They're in the outside doors when you come into the building. They have, so it's,
Yeah.
but there are, I would think, since Plymouth Hill is not a 55 and older community, but if you looked at it, you would probably say that it was.
Yeah.
And so.
I know a few of your younger residents, so.
Like me,
Me too. I'll be 70 shortly.
right? You're just a kid.
Yeah.
But I don't know, but I would think from just discussions I have heard, there are some people who have not been exposed to the internet, over the years and don't have it and not interested in getting it. Because that was the question is, we have Comcast for everybody in the building.
Correct.
And we wanted to make a deal with them with the TV and the internet. But they wouldn't do it unless everybody got the internet. And people just said, no, we don't. want it."
No, they didn't want it. But the crazy thing is, we're in negotiations now to add into the new contract that's coming up to have a Plymouth Hill condo station where they can where they can hit
Free
999 and it'll be information. They'll have flyers, reports, maybe some fire drill information, stuff that'll be on. You hit it. What's happening in Plymouth Hill? You might have a little ticker tape on the bottom. We don't know what exactly we're going to be doing, but if Comcast in our contract agrees to that, we'll have a station of our
Like you
own.
see in the hotels and all that.
Yeah, like you see in hotels,
Yeah.
even the township has
gotcha.
it. Yeah.
Yeah. So it sounds like
Yeah.
both communities have very reasonable and appropriate ways to communicate with your residents, right? So if there's
We
fire
try.
prevention opportunities, there's gonna be lots of opportunity to get the message out,
Mhm.
one way or another. Sounds like that's not gonna be a challenge.
Yeah.
Maybe we can offer multiple
Times.
yes.
I mean, we probably won't solve everything tonight, but it sounds like we've got at least a list of things to keep talking about and some possible, solutions. I mean, I don't know, I'll run through the list I have, maybe we just make sure I haven't missed anything, just we can keep track, but we talked about addressing maybe the furniture in the hallways is one opportunity. We talked about a lot of things around fire prevention, and also, like you said, like what to do in a fire, like not just prevention, but what to do if you're in that situation.
yeah,
There's a whole array of safety tips, right? So that could be part of the, sort of a larger educational effort. We talked about at least addressing at some point, like the sprinkler thing, like not just letting that go, maybe sprinklers in common areas. I mean, not assuming that that's out of the question. The special needs registry, making sure that maybe residents that do need some support for mobility reasons are listed and registered, and that's shared with you and shared with our police force. It sounds like the hoarding thing, that there's maybe something there to be addressed. And the issue of maybe captains, maybe just leveraging as much as we can that, like, captains that can support some of these efforts.
Or a program like you mentioned of,
Or, yes.
the program.
So I don't know, is there anything else we should make sure we don't lose track of as we keep talking?
I think that's it, and I think, as Lynn was saying, because especially what Mike said, which I wasn't aware that sprinklers may not become a retrofit issue, is maybe at some point do start talking about, could there be some sort of stair-step system where we're not looking at the whole building and everyone's unit and every bedroom or whatever, but just looking at maybe just start some baby steps.
I think my one comment to that would be, I think we should have more discussions on that as we go down the road, because unfortunately, I think there were a lot of misconceptions and
So maybe
misinformation
baby steps
provided
with
to the
cost.
facilities by a certain individual and his
Yeah.
organization that was not shared and what people are not aware of.
So maybe we can start
There's
looking
a lot
at
more that people don't know that can make it
options,
feasible.
alternatives,
Yes.
and most specifically, importantly, the cost,
Mhm.
because that's the big deal.
Yes.
Cost.
Yes, it is.
I agree.
Options there too.
I'm sorry, I agree.
I didn't mean to make you choke.
No, that's okay.
We've already
No,
done it.
hey, we're putting it, just on a side note, we're doing our roofs, the parking lots, we need the pool house redone, and we're going to be replacing the windows. I can't tell you that numbers are staggering, so.
It's not like you can put
Even
it
if
all.
you
Yeah.
own a house, the
Yeah.
numbers are staggering.
Oh no, these numbers would stagger even a homeowner, because it was stuff that was let go and it all has to be done at once, so it's a little
And the
little
sprinklers-
daunting.
The sprinkler conversation shouldn't just be about mid-rise and high-rise buildings. It should be to the entire community.
I'd like to see that.
What do you
There's a
mean?
far
Well, you
greater
have to start
risk, just so
somewhere.
everyone
What?
understands.
Put it in your
There's a
house.
far greater risk on a residential home than there is in our buildings.
Mm.
10 times more, my
I disagree with
opinion.
that.
I know you do.
Not for here, but
It's-
I totally disagree with that.
Yeah, and, well, there's data on it, but there's a much greater risk in 2-story, 3-story buildings than there is in mid and high-rise buildings, because, like, we're surrounded in concrete, number one, the spread factor, a stick-built home, that's, and, like I said, most of our fires are always, where we have major loss, has always been in a low-rise, type of structure. It's stick-built, it's wood, burns.
Fire spread, yes. Potential, that's where I'm going to disagree with you on. Potential is far higher in these buildings because of the number of people.
Well,
The
that's,
number of 10 spaces.
yeah,
So-
if I do something
but that-
stupid
that-
in my,
that's a whole-
in my single-family home, if I do something
on you.
foolish, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's not only on me, but I'm gonna put myself and the 3 other people in my home at risk. If I do something foolish in a high-rise building, I'm potentially gonna put 500 people at risk.
Yeah.
So, I mean, but I'm not,
But that's a- like it's-
but I'm
it's another
not-
discussion.
But you're right, if we're gonna talk about sprinklers, I mean, we could have a conversation about sprinklers, period, not just,
And I agree with that.
And-
I'd like to see expand to all different buildings.
Yeah. For the record,
including our garden style apartments, which are 2 floors.
I live in a home that has sprinklers because it was township code at the time I bought my home, so I actually do live in a single-family home with sprinklers, but regardless. But I
Well,
think
I'm just
maybe,
going-
but I
doing
think
it
there's some,
community-wide.
what I would suggest is there's some low-hanging fruit. I think some of the things we've talked about, they don't seem controversial or painful or difficult. I mean, they could be some immediate steps that help keep people safe. And the sprinkler thing is maybe a larger conversation. I mean, we've got a year, so it's a larger conversation that we can start, that we can dig into. Maybe there are some baby steps to be taken. I mean, TBD, right? That's why we're here. We could all weigh into that conversation. But it sounds like there are some other things that maybe are some really quick wins to help keep people safe. I mean, I love the idea of a special needs registry, something that's more centralized, that you get what you need, with, you know, both facilities helping collect that. Some of the fire prevention, I think it's really generous to say, we'll do it, you know, anytime, anywhere, like, let us know what you need educationally, and it seems like there's a lot of receptivity to that. Those seem to be really quick wins.
And they're all non-monetary.
Yeah.
Everything
Yeah.
with the sprinklers is non-monetary.
Yeah, there's no
Yeah.
cost.
No
It's-
cost to take
it
the
seems
tables
like
out of
everybody's
furniture out of
open
the
to it.
hallway.
And
Yeah.
Plymouth Hill might be able to consider banning furniture in the hallways.
I have that written down.
I
Yeah.
don't see, I mean, most of the ones I've seen are like, at one end, we have like three wings. And it's like,
At the ends,
Very
yeah.
end.
at the ends and the turns, that's where you get the problem. The straight heads are
Well,
not.
there's no
bad.
turns that have furniture in it anymore that I've seen, but I
They may
will,
have removed them.
I
That's
will
good.
tomorrow
it doesn't make
go
any sense
through
to have
each
there,
floor
but what's the point?
and see what we have, because there, a lot of it is, are low bureaus or something that somebody didn't want to keep in their unit, and they stuck it at the end of the hall, and then put flowers around it, it has
Yep.
pumpkins
You're gonna
on it,
Yep.
or a mirror over
I'm
top of
free,
it.
please take me.
Yeah.
But they need to either sell it or put it in
Yeah.
storage.
Yeah, well-
And it's not rampant across the whole building either,
Right.
or buildings. I
Right,
should
it's in
say.
a few-
It's
a few
just a
wings.
few of them, but it's worth noting at least.
And when the
Okay.
residents understand, it's not because we think, we're not talking about your sense of aesthetics, we're talking about, God
Safety,
forbid,
yeah.
you know, you have to run out a darkened hallway, we don't want you tripping, breaking a leg and not being able to get out.
Well, if I run that way, there's no door there, so.
Yeah.
If I trip over that piece of furniture, you might
going
want
the
to
wrong
just
way.
put a flower on me and say goodbye.
The flower will already be there.
Yeah. that's-
How often do you think we should meet? You think like quarterly or something like that?
Monthly, or?
Yeah.
Why don't you start out with
Every
monthly,
other.
and then you see where you
And
go.
if, and if it
Peters out.
gets real intense, or we make progress, we can meet bi-monthly, or,
Yep.
yeah, monthly.
Do monthly?
I think that sounds good. I mean, is this a productive conversation? Is there something we should do differently, or was this useful tonight? I mean, if we kind of move down this same path of picking these conversations up, is there something else that would be more productive?
Well, I'll give you my opinion. So,
Please.
so I think we had covered a lot of really great stuff that's very easy to do, doesn't cost anything, and that's great. If this, you just told us all the things that your capital projects that you are saving, have saved money for, and probably have to raise your monthly rates for. If, you tell us, are sprinklers something that you probably can't consider until it's a code requirement? I mean, if that's the case, I don't see a meeting every month
I would
for
say
that.
pretty much
I don't
we'd
see
have
me-
to be forced into it, because
Right.
there's the
Right.
the remediation. We don't have drop ceilings, we don't have, so everything would have to be mounted on the ceilings in our
Right.
units, and
Yeah.
all of them have asbestos. What's that?
Not true.
Really?
There's
Because I
options.
thought that was said. Oh, there's an option?
That's what you were told.
So
Okay.
maybe at our
They're
next.
just saying,
Yeah,
there's-
maybe
there's
that's the
options, separate
conversation.
discussion.
Okay, so
Yeah,
maybe
we'll
our
have a,
next.
we'll have a separate discussion.
But just understand
Not
that's
tonight,
not
because
true.
my wife is already
Yeah, so-
angry with
Yeah.
me, so.
Why don't we say maybe at the next meeting, we can talk about what are the options? How do sprinklers get put in? For, maybe talk about options, and at some point talk about cost, and talk about where you can begin and how how you can do it. But maybe that's what it is. Maybe people don't know. I certainly don't know anything about sprinklers. What are the options for installation? What's the cheapest? What's the least intrusive?
Well, at our one meeting, we had asked, was our cost analysis completed before it was passed?
And, yeah, and I think I said a little while ago, what are we talking about cost here?
Yeah,
And-
if there's a cost analysis ran on it, I mean, that'll tell the story.
Okay.
Because things are changing every day. The cost of raw materials and everything else. It's just insane. What we were paying a year ago is up by a third.
Yeah.
You know, and a year before that, same thing, and the supply chain issues and everything else. But that being said, a detailed, you know, cost analysis by an engineer is something that I would say the township should invest in before they implement anything on those measures, residentially as well as commercially, mid-rise and high-rise, so.
Yeah, I mean, if.
That's not my cause there.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
it helps because there's a lot of fixed incomes, there's a lot of things going
You have to
on
do
here
that per
that,
building.
you know, and if you did this to the entire community, the entire township, and get their input as well, you know, and see where we wind up, you know.
I think start with these buildings first, though. 'Cause those are the
Yeah,
ones in
and,
question.
yeah, and beyond these buildings, and when we're talking about, you know, apparently there was something in the works back when Lynn's house was built. My house was built in 1840, so.
All new construction in this town, all new construction in this township is, you have
You have
to
to put it.
Not,
up
not,
to-
not
no.
for single-family
Not for
homes that
Single-family
do
that
not
don't
use
truss.
truss.
Wait, single families that
They
are,
do not use truss construction. They use conventional construction, nails, solid
Stick,
wood.
yeah, stick and frame.
Yeah, if you
know, the
use gusset
trusses,
plates or anything else, then-
prefab
Prefab roof,
joists,
angled roof.
floors and roofs, if you use that type of construction on a single-family home, detached, you have to sprinkler. But, so the builders don't do that, you know, they'll do stick and frame so that they don't have to sprinkle.
Of course,
But
the price here,
all
that we did.
multi-families do, and it costs more to build it,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, but all multi-families, even,
Multi-families,
and all
commercial,
apartments, all
all
commercial.
new construction
renovations
or
above a certain
renovations.
extent,
Mhm.
including single family, then you have to start sprinkling also.
Right. Depends on the
Yeah.
type of construction, but.
But sprinklers, but other talk, I think, for future meetings also, if there's a specific topic we want to go into more depth on, I think we look into that too.
Yeah, I think we
Talk
should
about
know what we're
boarding, we
talking
can
about,
bring more information on
cost-wise
that
and
and-
installation-wise, just so we don't write it off or write it back in without having more information,
Yeah.
more data, dollar signs and construction options.
Yeah.
And statistics.
Yes.
We got plenty of statistics.
I know.
They're
Oh, it's just a statistics person.
So that's what we can talk about at our next meeting.
that I can provide to you, which I don't think we've ever made it your way.
I don't know anything.
All right, so we're ready? We're ready to call it an evening, ready to adjourn?
Yes.
Okay.
We're
So
going to
moved.
decide on the meeting next month?
Yeah.
Say Monday?
Oh, well, we'll have a budget meeting. We'll have a budget meeting on the third Monday. So this is the third Monday of the month because I'm in the zoning board's meeting. But three of us here will have a budget meeting, so we won't be available. So we'll have to pick another date. Did the doodle poll thing work?
Yeah.
For
Yeah.
you?
Worked for
So
us,
maybe
yeah.
we can we'll try that again, because everybody might not have their
Okay,
calendars with them right this minute.
That's good because,
Yeah, and everybody can be at their other calendars.
But
and
this is a
figure
good
that out
time,
also.
6:30 in the evening, 6
We
in the
start at
evening?
6.
Yeah.
Is there any particular topic that you might want to go into more depth on? I can bring information.
Training. A little bit more depth on what type of training you can offer and stuff
Okay.
like that. Maybe programs, some of the stuff we discussed
Give me a whole
here.
list of it, yep.
We can do this class this time. I'll spend 45 minutes at Plymouth Hill with a group of people and,
Sure.
and do training. Sure, okay.
Yep.
That would be good to look at various things. The why we don't want the furniture at the end of the hallways and.
We can talk about that.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
if there's any specific questions that come up in the meantime, I guess share it with the group. And again, yeah, I can bring information on that stuff.
Okay.
If somebody wants to specifically ask about that, well, here's the things to consider.
Thank you very much
Okay.
for your time.
Sure.
Well, thank you so
Yes,
much.
thank you all.
everybody.
Appreciate it.
Yes.